Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers, sisters, and viewers and friends of Ikra TV. Welcome to another edition of Real Talk. I'm your host, Iqbal Bana, and it's a pleasure to come into your homes week in and week out. I try and, as I say every week, try and bring topics of interest to our viewers, something that is current, something that affects our lives on a day-to-day basis, something that is important, that dictates how we live and our well-being as citizens of the United Kingdom and the whole wide world. Today we want to talk about our new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, who has very quickly, in a very short space of time, having joined politics and ended up in this very prestigious position of Prime Minister of the fifth largest economy in the world. The unique thing about him is obviously he's the first non-white Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I don't think anybody in their right minds contemplated witnessing this historic event taking place in our lifetime. So it's a huge achievement, something that is unique, as I say, in this country's history. But also alongside that, he is in fact the youngest Prime Minister in this country that has ever seen in 200 years. And also he comes and joins the Premiership and takes the leadership of the United Kingdom at a very interesting and challenging times, not just for the UK, but also throughout the world. As we know, he's now flown over to Egypt to join the COP27 conference, which is discussing the whole issue about global climate change and the environment and its impact on the world, etc. But also where we in the UK face some real challenges of the economic impact of what is happening globally and locally, which is having devastating effect on some members of our communities, not just the Muslim community, but throughout all the citizens of the United Kingdom. And to help me discuss some of these issues and debate the hopes and aspirations of the Muslim community in particular, what do we as the Muslims, a community in this country, hope and expect from our new Prime Minister? Now we know that he's a practicing Hindu, and there's nothing wrong with that. We celebrate all communities where they have faith or people of no faith at all. So we hope that, being a practicing person of faith, he will understand some of the challenges that we in the Muslim community face through, both in terms of the economic situation that we are faced with, as well as Islamophobia, which has exponentially grown over the last few years in particular. And we have seen some of the rhetoric and some of the pronouncements being made by politicians, which is also having huge effects on the well-being of the Muslim community. To help me discuss some of these issues, and as well as some of the global issues, is somebody who is not a stranger to this program, somebody who has been on this program many, many times, whose knowledge and his wisdom has enlightened us over many years, and somebody that I have enormous amount of respect for, and that is Ishtiaq Ahmed, the former Chief Executive of the Race Equality Council here, but also the Kismet Center, and also one of the policy advisor of the Bradford Council of Mosque, a man who has enormous knowledge and wisdom and experience working around social justice, as I've said before, particularly around racial justice, but also equality and diversity for all communities. And he's been instrumental in the past in making sure that the faith communities of Bradford come together and work collectively as well. But one of his greatest achievements, amongst many other achievements, has been the very successful Council of Mosque that was established in Bradford by him and others like Sheikh Azam and Zulfi Karim, which has become a model for the rest of the country to follow. And indeed, many of the Muslim communities and councils in local communities are modeled on the Bradford model itself. So can I welcome my dear friend, my mentor, Ishtiaq Ahmed. Ishtiaq, welcome back. I know you spend part of your life now. He's retired. He's now a political commentator and an analyst, both in terms of UK politics and particularly Pakistan politics as well. So I know he spends a lot of his time between the two countries. And sometimes I don't even know whether he's here or not until he sends me a message on WhatsApp to say Assalamu alaikum, and then sends me some of his iterations. He writes a comment on the Indo-Pakistan political situation, as well as sometimes in this country as well. And I read with great interest his views and thoughts on the contribution that the late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II made to this country as well as the Commonwealth as well. So Ishtiaq, welcome. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's nice to see you. Obviously, you're looking much younger, and I think your time in Pakistan seems to have really helped you look much more fitter and younger than I remember you when the last time you were here. It agrees with you, obviously, so maybe I need to get a visa for Pakistan myself and see whether I can spend some time over there. But I'm not a Pakistani citizen or born of Pakistani birth, so whether they let me in or I'm not sure. But nice to have you here. Thank you for your time.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Absolutely delighted to be in Bradford. And my friends who are watching this program, they can be rest assured that I am in Bradford.
Definitely, I can witness that.
Very much alive here, sitting in this studio. Absolutely pleasure to be here. And it is also a privilege, I think, for me to be able to spend time here and in Pakistan.
Absolutely, I'm sure.
Both countries are countries of my love. Pakistan was the country of my birth, and Britain is where I have grown up, and where my children and my grandchildren are residing. This is their home.
Yep.
So I'm very privileged that I'm able to straddle.
You're one of the lucky ones.
Yes, Alhamdulillah, with the
Yes.
blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
Beshak,
I feel very blessed that I'm here. We have been around for many years now, and we've been struggling as a community for many years for equality, for justice, for our presence, our contribution to be recognized.
Definitely.
And the appointment of Rishi Sunak as the Prime Minister of Britain is the culmination of struggle, community struggle that has gone on throughout the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, and is still going on. So I think we naturally should feel privileged, and for us it is a point of high celebration that a non-white person from an ex-colony of Britain,
Yes.
and only 70-80 years ago, Britain was the empire, and India and Pakistan were the colonies of Britain. For someone from that colony, one of the colonies of Britain, to become its Prime Minister is an enormous achievement.
Oh, definitely.
And something that I think we need to welcome, we need to celebrate, and we need to acknowledge. Having said that, racism, Islamophobia, prejudices, discrimination is still rife in the society.
In fact, it's growing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's growing. And the fact that a person or a group of individuals have actually made it to the top, we welcome it, but it should not hide the fact that the struggle for equality and justice for our communities, and more so for the Muslim community, carries on.
So, I mean, following on from that, obviously, a lot of people, obviously, we do welcome the appointment of Rishi Sunak. I think everybody of colour or non-colour as well, those who fundamentally believe in equality and social justice and opportunities for all, see this as a watershed moment in this country. There's no doubt about it. But having said that, I mean, are there any particular aspects that you feel that Rishi Sunak may be able to work on or sort of bring into the politics of the UK that hitherto has not been part of the discussion, the dialogue and the debate, because he comes from this particular background? I mean, his father was born in Kenya and they moved over here in the 60s, and he was born in this country. We know he's a practicing Hindu, as I say, and he's practicing Asian. His grandfather was born in Pakistan, and my great-grandfather, and they migrated from there to Kenya as railway workers, like many people did. I mean, my background is Africa. We had a lot of people working in the railways who came from the then Indian subcontinent. But I mean, that background and being a practicing Hindu and of Asian descent, does that give him that added knowledge and value that you hope he will input into the policies and the practices and the future, direction of this country? Or do you feel that sometimes, people get to that stage, the external pressures may restrict him?
Well, I think there are a number of aspects to this. We would hope that Rishi himself, coming from a minority background, his family himself traveled from pre-India, pre-partition Pakistan, went to Kenya and Nairobi, and then his father traveled to UK for education. So it's a family that has experienced the whole kind of legacy of immigration, not once but twice or thrice. So one would expect that he would have and that would give him a better understanding.
But he came from a very privileged background, didn't he?
Yes, I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
That one would expect that he would come through. He would have a better understanding of what immigration or actually migrating from one country to another country into a very different culture, very different kind of setup of society, what it feels like. So one hopes that there is some understanding within him, and that should be able to understand the difficulties and challenges of those who have actually come to UK in the last 70-80 years from India and Pakistan and other parts of the world. That's one aspect of it. The second aspect is that he is, as you rightly have pointed out, he is from very privileged background, so he has not actually experienced some of the hardships, and in many ways he may have led a very sheltered life and has not been exposed to the level of racism and discrimination and prejudice that some of us from very working class may have gone through. Something.
Yeah, and that's the point I was trying to raise. Yes,
and that is very important. That's very important thing. The third aspect is that a lot of people have actually made this thing about that is a practicing Hindu. Yeah. Well, it's good that he acknowledges his faith.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's a positive.
Yeah, we should all acknowledge our faith. He's not hidden his faith, so in that sense. And one hopes that faith will actually give him that, the level of empathy and compassion for wider humanity. Of course, some of my friends have actually also looked at it cynically and said that,
which is understandable sometimes,
that because he's a Hindu and because of his Indian background, his whole kind of leaning will be towards the Hindu community and towards the India. Now, that's natural. I think one would expect
that's natural,
it. Yes. If there was a Muslim prime minister of Pakistani origin, we would expect that prime minister, he or she, to have a bit more empathy and a bit more leaning towards Muslims in Pakistan. I think there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I mean, that's normal practice.
Yeah, it's normal, and we should not hold that against it.
Yes, exactly.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Where I am slightly concerned is that he is a prime minister, yes, of Asian descent, yes, of Asian faith descent, but he is the prime minister of Britain. And that is his foremost responsibility, and that would be, I think, foremost concern. And I always have believed that one of the things that this country has, that I think this country has very strong institutions, and anyone who in any way tries to step outside of it and does it goes to an extreme, the institutions have a capacity and capability of bringing that person back. Boris Johnson has actually realized that.
Oh yes, I mean,
and
he had to leave.
And Liz Truss has realized as well. That as well. Yeah. So I think Rishi, although Rishi was a product of Boris Johnson, Boris Johnson, what some say, but I think Rishi realizes the limitations.
I mean, that's one good point. I mean, we're coming to a break, so we'll have to take a break now. But yeah, I mean, there is accountability and there's monitoring, etc. That may, there's one positive thing. I hope you've enjoyed the program so far. To you soon, inshallah. Don't go away. I will carry on with this discussion debate. If you want to call in, please do so and share your thoughts and your views. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.